Today on Tri-Curl Studios, we do a comparison between the Gibson SG Standard 61 and the Gibson SG Junior. Alright, so very quickly, before we get into the sound samples, a few things I do want to say in regards to the comparison. It's not solely a two pickup humbucker versus single pickup P90. Of course, that's a lot of the appeal to this. I will go over some of the differences and of course the similarities later on. But I do want to say, for the first part at least, because this does not have a neck pickup, I am going to be using the tone controls. So you're going to see that doesn't necessarily emulate a neck pickup per se by rolling back the tone, but it definitely gives you a different type of tone. And when you're kind of tone searching with this, kind of helps you get somewhat of a similar tone. Also with the SG Junior here, I changed out the knobs on it and as well added 2 pointers and a Chinese truss rod that says Les Paul on it, similar to like the older ones. Because basically Gibson can't manufacture the ones. I've been waiting almost a year for the Les Paul truss rod cover that I ordered. Here are the sound samples. Alright, so there were the sound samples here. Let's talk about some of the similarities and then some of the differences and why you might want either one of these. So as for similarities, these are both part of the original series. So they do have the hand wiring with the orange drop capacitors. Basically the same type of body, and as well it has the shorter neck heel as opposed to the modern series, which has the longer neck heel to it. So the longer neck heel would be up to about here, whereas the shorter ones down here. Next up, we want to talk about some of the differences here. Now obviously two humbuckers is the 61R and 61T versus a dog-eared P90, which is the same as all of the other Gibson P90s basically, but it's dog-eared obviously because of the way that it looks, and it's drilled right into the body itself. Next up, we're talking about the bridge. So this has a tune-o-matic with a stop bar, which is great for individually intonating and as well adjusting tension by bringing the stop bar down. This right here has the lightning bar, which is a wraparound bridge that actually has certain parts raised for the intonation, and you can kind of adjust the intonation by how the bridge is angled. There's a few things that you can do with it. But one thing I do want to say about the lightning bar itself versus the compensated wraparound bridge, if you do a lot of bending, you have to be a little careful when you're doing so. And you're not necessarily going to break a string, but you might hear a little plink when you're doing your bending on your high notes if you're kind of going a little crazy with the bending. Okay, next up we want to talk about the tuners. So both of these are vintage style tuners. This has the small white buttons and this has the keystone buttons. Otherwise, they're basically the same. Now, these are not to be confused with the vintage style tuners that are on the Tribute series versus, like, you know, the old ones that they had. So the basically it just pops right out. I immediately replaced the tuners on my special DC Tribute that I had because I felt like there was a little bit of movement in them, and it did have a little bit of an issue staying in tune. So this is a tiny bit of a different style, more upgraded style. It's closer to the vintage style tuners that you get nowadays. The neck here, basically the same neck, a slight bit different it feels like on this, but of course that's probably because this is a bound neck or this is an unbound neck. This also has the trapezoid inlays, whereas this has the dot inlays on it. If you're looking at the headstock, this got nothing on it. This got the little crown or holly eye, I think it's a crown to be honest, in it. And as well, this is silk screened with the Gibson logo. This is actually inlaid. Do also want to say they're both mahogany bodies with mahogany necks. So they're very, very similar in the way that they're designed and the way that everything comes out. Now, the last thing I really want to talk about is who this may be kind of designed for, who might want to get this. So the all-around guitar player would more than likely want to get the SG Standard 61. It does have a ton of features to it. It does have the neck pickup, the humbucker pickup, or humbucker pickups, which obviously work a little better with high gain and hum management, hum bucking. But the P90 pickup is not something at all to be looked over, especially with this, because this type of guitar here, the Junior series, whether it be the SG Junior or the Les Paul Junior as well, they kind of make you work for it, if that makes a little more sense. So you're working a little harder to get the tones that you like. And what I find is this is a rabbit hole guitar, whereas this is more of an immediacy guitar. What I mean by that is I can play this for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end, and I will play around with the guitar, the controls on the guitar, more than I would on this one. When I'm playing this, I'm more of adjusting the amp controls versus this, which I'm adjusting the guitar controls. So, rabbit hole, immediacy. Meh. Either way, they're both great guitars. They have a very similar design, similar look, and as well, they both come with hard shell cases. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I have a Les Paul Junior as well, so I'll probably end up doing this versus the Les Paul Junior, and as well the Les Paul Junior versus at least Les Paul Standard 60s, because they're both also in the original series. I'll probably also do, just because budgetary-wise, this is very similarly priced to the SG Standard, not the SG Standard 61. So I'll probably do one on that as well. Anyway, I really enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully you didn't find it too crazy. And I talk a lot in these parts, so I'm sorry. Anyway, thanks for watching. I've been Ryan from Tracker Studios. I say good day.